If you really want to know if Orlando is safe enough to live in or if it's a place you should steer clear from, then this is the video for you. Let's go. What's up, everyone? My name is Cameron Hodge, a realtor here in Orlando, Florida, and this is the Living in Orlando channel. So if you want to know everything about eating, sleeping, and living in Orlando, then this is the channel for you. Hit like and subscribe so that way you can be notified every time we have a new video. And we always have people reaching out to us day, nights, weekends, doesn't matter when, and we absolutely love it. So give us a call, text, email, whatever you need to do so we can help you when coming to Orlando, Florida. All right, so getting right into it. So obviously, if you're looking at this video, maybe safety of Orlando is a concern to you, and justifiably so. If you're like me, you have kids, or you have a loved ones, like if you're making your move here, you want to know, is it even a safe place to live, right? So we've all done it, right? And when you're thinking of Florida, what do? You go on Google and you type in Florida man does this, Florida man, Florida woman, and you get some crazy stories. And yes, every state has this. It's not just Florida, but we've all had, you've thought of it. Don't lie. You've thought of it when it comes to moving to Orlando and you're like, man, I'm gonna type in to see what craziness is going on. It's craziness everywhere, right? So everything I have in this video is from niche.com, and it's their ratings. It's a vetable website. Like, they have a good idea of polls, and it's usually a decent idea to look at, right? So Orlando does rank on the letter system a C, right? So when you look at like the national average of all the crimes, all the different things that go on, Orlando does have slightly higher in most categories. Now, that being said, it's also a city, right? Like, you look at like LA or all the other cities, like New York City, if you're coming from there, like, they're going to rank lower because it's a city. Like, it's always going to have more crime that's done in it. But I will make a note that if it's a big issue when it comes to moving to Orlando, when you look at the sister city that's an hour and a half west, that is Tampa, they are ranked an A. And I'll get into that here in a little bit. So if that's like a huge deal and you need to have a top rated city that's lower in crime, Tampa does on average have a lot lower crime. So it's something to think about moving to Orlando. Now, so when we first came to Orlando, yes, right? Like, so you have, Orange County, where Orlando is, and then you have Polk County is one of the counties next to it. And if you've never looked up Polk County, you should look it up. There's a sheriff there. He has a lot of famous videos, especially how he describes some of the things that go on there. So Polk County has always been definitely one of those higher crime counties, which I'm sure probably accounts for why Orlando has some of the issues it does, because it just bleeds over, in my opinion. But looking at it, it's one of those things where as people move to Orlando, I really think that can eventually start to really help with crime a lot. So when we first came out here, one of the biggest things that I noticed about Orlando is that it still holds a lot of remnants of being touristy. So I had came to Orlando 10 years ago was the last time. Before I visited Orlando again, before we made the move, I was like 10 years prior before I'd even thought about coming to Orlando permanently. And it's definitely a tourist city. You have Disney World, you have all these other things in the city. So I feel like crime is going to be a little higher here when you have a city where people don't always live here. Now, if you come to Orlando now, you're going to see lots of new construction. You're going to see new schools going up. Like, there's a lot of things going on here that show the changing of times as people start to move here. Moving into the next point. So I want to bring up that, well, I mentioned that Orlando was touristy, right? Now, when it comes to like the feeling of the city, I definitely think Tampa is more of a permanent feeling city. Like, you can definitely tell it's established. Like, it's what was #1 relocation city in Florida. But there's a lot of things I don't like about it, right? Like, I do love Orlando and what it had to offer for our family. So it's something to think about when it comes between these two cities, since that's all Central Florida in a nutshell. But overall, like, when we first came here, like, when you fly, let's say you're flying to the airport, like, it's, downtown Tampa and like that immediate area, like, it feels like any city. Like, there's still going to be some weird parts, but for the most part, like, it's really nice, which is weird that it has such a lower ranking. But I think when you look at the entire suburbs, like, there's just bad pockets that are slowly going away, in my opinion. But when you have places like Golden Oaks or Celebration, like if you're in a higher budget, like it's the crime is no issue. A lot of these communities are going to be gated, not all of them, but when you have a higher price point that's in those types of homes, like you're like it's not going to be an issue. You're going to live here and you're not even going to notice anything's really amiss. Now, I will say, as you start to go west outside, once you hit Polk County, which doesn't take too long, I mean, really like less than like probably like 20 minutes from Disney World, like you're in Polk County. Once you hit that point, like, yes, like there are definitely are some issues like where, you have like druggie goes into the home and all this stuff, but like I really haven't experienced it. For the most part, from everything I've noticed, like it just feels safe. And it's like there's pockets, right? Like, but that's why you need to have someone like us where you can reach out to help you pick the right area. Because yes, I'm sure if you pick the wrong area, like there's a lot of ways for you to just be in a bad area, right? Like there's certain parts of Davenport, like when you get to like the outside of Orlando that I wouldn't live in because it's just my opinion of that area. But when you have areas like St. Cloud, it's beautiful. Like I love that community, and like overall, like it's just great. Like everyone's super friendly. There's space for the homes. It's just not crowded. It's great. So when you look up Orlando and you start to see how dangerous some of the areas are, like I would definitely start to do more research and take a trip out here or reach out to us and we can have that conversation with you, because you'll start to see that it's really not too bad, especially where if you're looking at like newer construction, like they're going in areas where these communities are going to be those that are moving to Florida. And let's be honest here, if you're someone who is looking at crime, like you're not going to be able to afford any homes that are in these areas. It's just a fact. I'm sorry, prove me wrong. Let me know in the comments below if you think you've ever run into a situation or in Orlando that you think is dangerous, and let everyone know and say, hey, like I don't think this is the city for you. You need to look elsewhere. But for me, like you just don't really see crime. It's one of those things where I think if you're looking for it, like you'll find it. But if you're just living your normal life, like you treat everyone nicely and you just go about your business, then there's really nothing wrong with Orlando. Like everyone has that personality. Everyone is very friendly, and I'm sure there are those who live here who might not like it. But when reality is, like when you go around a lot of neighborhoods in the area, like you start to realize like most people like between the last 20 years are from elsewhere, Canada, New York, California, Arizona, like just different states that have moved here. And it's everyone just realizes like, hey, we weren't always born here, but we're just here together. We're here to live our lives, have fun, families, and all that. And I think in the way I feel Orlando is going is it's really pushing the direction of becoming not just a tourist city, but a permanent city for people to live in and really enjoy their time. And the last big thing that I wanted to bring up for those of you that say, hey, Cameron, I don't have $5 million budget here. Like I'm moving to Florida like you did because I want to save some money for my family. I'm not trying to live in a higher neighborhood, and even parts, St. Cloud, the prices do start to creep up. If you're like, hey, like I had just a modest budget, I know I can afford stuff, but like, where do I go? So I know safety is gonna be a huge concern there, because you think, well, if I can't afford those major neighborhoods, like where am I gonna go? Look, so obviously you have Maine, Orlando, right? And then obviously, if you start to do your own research, you've probably already seen that you can start to move west. And where does that take you? Polk County, right? And you can search it on YouTube. I'm sure you're going to see all kinds of chaos and terrible things. Like it's again, if you look for it, it's there. It's the world we live in everywhere you go, even in San Diego where we lived before. Even in the country where I grew up in New York, there's issues. Actually, that reminds me, like people get concerned with stuff here. Like for the most part, like I really haven't been in any bad situation in Orlando because I do family oriented things. I travel as a realtor, like with clients' homes in certain areas, but overall, like I'm not looking for problems. I'm not out at like 2 a.m. I don't go to the bars in downtown really. It's not what I do. And overall, like I think it's safe and I think it's great for my family. But like growing up in New York, like it's, every like year, 2 years, like there's a house in town that either goes up in flames from a meth lab or crazy things like that. Like tons of kids, when I was growing up, like had pills, so look, it's everywhere you grow up is going to have those things. But overall, like I think it's really still a safe city. You just got to choose the right area. But going back to if you have a lower budget, you start to hit Polk County where you're like, hey, this is where I need to live because it's affordable and I'm willing to have that travel distance to the city. Or maybe you just want to be closer like Lakeland where you're in between Tampa and Orlando, whichever, it doesn't matter. It's all the same concept. There's still great communities, right? So you can still build a home for $400,000 or even cheaper if you go into like a community and not standalone. Like there's still things you can do to where you can choose your own area, and people are still great out there, right? So just realize that though, when it comes down to that, you either need to have a professional like ourselves, or you need to take a travel trip out here to really do research. Because when we started looking at homes, we were like, hey, we don't want to max our budget. We want to go below our budget, because that's the point. It's where we wanted to have more flexibility when we came out here. When you start looking west, you start to realize like, wow, this looks like a great home. Let's go visit. You go to see the home. Home will be okay, bad, it doesn't matter. But then all of a sudden you go around the corner and you're like, holy cow, like there's mobile homes with the roofs caving in and Johnny has a crack pipe on the outside. It's not that dramatic always, but you got to choose the right area and have someone who's there for you when it comes to moving to Orlando. So that's my stint on, is Orlando a safe city? Overall, yes, I believe it is. Yes, ratings are going to say it's higher and worse, but as people move here, as it expands, it pushes out a lot of those problem areas, because that's just how expansion works, love it or hate it. So if you're moving to Orlando and you need help with someone on the ground, or you have questions, we are here for you. Call, text, email, whatever you need to do when you are moving to Orlando, and I will see you in the next video.